Hello and welcome to the Next Level Confident podcast. My name's Janelle, Lynnae, and I have with me my co-host, Frankie, Vignone.
You always say it that way.
I know, it's my opening line.
It's fun.
I, for a second, forgot what my name was.
What is your name?
Well, it's confusing because I'm Janelle Lynnae, but I'm also Janelle Vignone, and so then I was like, I stuttered for a second. I don't know if people will be able to tell that I was like, for a quick moment, I was like unsure of how to introduce myself.
I don't think anybody will know.
Okay, perfect. It's the 84th podcast, which is pretty cool.
Almost getting to 100.
I know, getting close. And like about a month ago, we hit over 20,000 listens, which is pretty cool to think about. 20,000 times people have played this podcast.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot of people.
That feels very
It's
special.
40,000 years.
That took me a second. I was like, wait.
That wasn't that hard to figure out.
Wow. 40,000 ears, because we all have 2 ears.
Well, maybe some of us have one.
Some people might not even have any ears.
That's true.
I feel like even if you don't have ears, though, you have like an ear hole.
We'll just call it 40,000.
Okay, perfect.
For continuity
purposes. You love saying that. That's one of your favorite sayings.
I know.
Frankie, what's one fun fact about your life right now?
Currently, I'm very hungry.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to die to my hunger right now.
Dang, dying to your flesh.
I want a cheeseburger so bad.
Frankie eats cheeseburgers more than pretty much anyone else that I know.
No, Brent eats cheeseburgers more than I do.
Well, I don't hang
Our
out
good
with
friend Brent.
So I guess it'd be hard for me to know because I don't hang out with a lot of guys. But where were we recently? Oh, in Boise. We went and visited some friends in Boise, and you had burgers every single, like it was like, I think numerous times a day you were having burgers.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah, I guess.
I love cheeseburgers.
I like switching it up. I like trying new things.
Cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
and
like
fries.
last night we went on our date night, and Frankie wanted to get a cheeseburger to share, but we were at this
A Wagyu burger, though.
Yeah, that's nice. But we ended up getting steak and frites.
That was pretty good.
And then, how do you describe the pasta we got?
It was a bolognese.
Oh, yeah. I think it was a boar
bolognese.
Oh, it was so good. Take me back. What was that place called again? If you live in San Diego.
The Lion's Share.
The Lion's Share.
Downtown, across from the convention
center. It was cool. It's like speakeasy vibes.
Yeah, it was good.
But there were some dead animals up on the walls, and Frankie got really sad.
I know.
I was sad too, but Frankie's very sensitive to...
I had to go to the bathroom and start crying. I'm just kidding. I just cried at the table.
He just cried. Well, we positioned him so he wouldn't have to see the animals.
Oh my gosh. I could totally have sat on the other side
You
and
could
been
have?
fine. Yes.
You said you were like, I don't want to see them.
No, I said it makes me sad, and then you nicely were like, "Oh, I'll sit on the other side and stare at them because I don't have a soul and it doesn't matter." No, I'm just kidding.
I don't have a soul. No, I mean, are you fixing my makeup?
Yeah, you're good now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, a little masky.
Rubbing my
Mascara.
face very aggressively. Usually under the eye, you want to be a little more gentle.
You'll be fine.
Oh, well, I don't have a bunch of rinks. Okay, so today we're going to talk about things to stop doing if you want to get married. And I don't know, I will know the number when we're done with this podcast, but I'm not totally sure. As of right now, we have about 6 things written down here, but more could come out. So it'll be like, stop doing these 6 things if you want to get married. But before we do that, we have to share, of course, one of our most recent reviews from Chloe Elizabeth. She said, this is a review for our podcast, by the way, on Apple Podcasts, because we love
Reviews.
Wow, we finish each other's.
We live for the affirmation.
We finish each other's
sandwiches.
And
Ooh,
we
I
don't
could
live
eat
for
a
the
sandwich.
affirmation, but it does
I'm just kidding.
feel nice. And it helps, actually, more importantly than it feeling nice for us, it actually helps other people find the podcast.
Right. Just like going to a good restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to leave reviews. So, anyway, Chloe said, relationship goals. Wait, I want you to read it. I always talk too much during the podcast. Let's hear you read it.
5 stars, by the way. Relationship goals. I'm So grateful. I found this podcast, double exclamation mark. I have seen a lot of unhealthy relationships, and divorce is just normal in my family. But hearing and learning from Janelle and Frankie, I feel like I have a couple/relationship I can look up to. I love their relationship and how they talk to each other. They are definitely goals. I've learned so much from them. 11 out of 10. Wow, that was nice.
I know. Isn't that nice?
Thank you so much.
You kind of struggled a little, like you kind of sound like a robot in the beginning.
Really?
Reading it. Kind of.
Oh, well, whatever. They got the point.
They got the point. Wait, I was going to say something. What if we started rereading 1-star reviews that we got?
We should.
You were like, oh, here's a 5-star one.
Should we read a 1-star? Do we have any?
I don't think we have any 1-star reviews. I do have, I think...
52 ratings. This predates me, though, so I can't take credit. Because you've been doing it longer than me.
That's true. You joined,
Oh, they're
in
all
the
5 stars.
Year.
Dang, you're good. This is awesome.
Dang, you're good. We're good because now you're here, my lovies. But I do have a bad review on my book on Amazon, and... You
do? What was that about?
She just said, it's overhyped. It's not that good. But other than that, I have all 5. I think I have most... Well, I need to go back. I haven't looked in a little bit. But I just remember it was all 5-star reviews. And then I got this 1 or 2-star review. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was so mean. And then I sent it to one of our friends who also has a podcast and also has numerous books. Okay, your friend will literally not stop calling you.
He's called me twice.
No, I ignored it one time too. We're using Frankie's phone right now, and he's literally calling 3 times in a row. Are you dying? Because that's the only reason you should ever call someone
He's
3
fine.
times
Keep
in a row.
going. He's not dying. He lives across the country.
Well, I know. It just
I'd
seems...
be his last phone call in that situation.
That's why I'm like, please, why are you calling 3 times in a row? It's so aggressive.
Okay.
That's my biggest pet peeve, when people call 3 times in a row.
I know. Unless it's me.
But I would assume it's an emergency. You wouldn't just call me 3 times in a row, because you're bored with your life. Okay, anyway. Moving on. What are we talking about?
You said you sent it to somebody that has a podcast.
Oh, yeah. I sent my bad review, and I was like, hey, what do you do about the bad reviews? Should I, respond to the bad review? Do I, I mean, there's no way to delete it or anything, obviously, but I was like, do I just respond and say, hey, I'm really sorry or something? And then they were like, the person I sent it to was like, congratulations on your first bad review. This is a really big deal. And she just hyped me up. And she's like, this means you're really growing. And this is a good thing, because if you only ever get good reviews, that means you're probably not actually I don't remember what she said. Maybe you're not saying things that are controversial, or I can't remember, but she hyped me up.
You've crossed over to the other side.
Made me feel better.
It's good.
Made me feel better. Okay, and then right before we dive into our things, we do need to do our
I'll go first.
Love map card. We just started doing this last time.
All right, pick a card.
Love map card. Okay. Here you go.
What is your partner's social security number? Next one.
No, and we definitely do not know each other.
There's no need to know that.
I'm trying to remember if I ever wrote yours down somewhere.
There's
but
literally
I don't think
no
I
need
do.
to
I
know
just reach
that.
out to you. I'm
When
like,
you
hey,
ever
what do I...
asked, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What is your partner's favorite way to spend an evening? Ooh, that's good. It just depends on the day. What?
Every card he gets, he's just chucking it. He's throwing it. It's not
dramatic.
He's not putting it back into the deck somewhere. He's just throwing it across the room, and I'll pick it up later.
Your favorite way to spend an evening? I would say you would love to eat a nice bowl of pasta. You would.
Last night.
And snuggle and cuddle and watch a nice episode
Of something romantic.
And
oh yeah, I'm also supposed to be helping you.
That's probably pretty much it.
I think so, yeah. The thing is there's so many different ways to spend an evening.
It could be, it depends on what kind of
sometimes I'm more introverted, sometimes I'm more extroverted, so it just depends.
Let's do one more.
For another one that you're gonna... Okay.
These are fun. What is your partner's favorite holiday? Ooh. Your birthday.
That's so true. I love my birthday so much.
I know. It's a whole month celebration.
It's a whole month. The month of April is dedicated to the holiday of Janelle's birthday. Okay.
The holiday of Janelle's birth.
And my birthday is on Earth Day, so it's really fun to say. Birthday, Earth Day, Earth Day, birthday. Okay, my turn. What is one of your partner's favorite weekend activities?
So easy.
There's only one activity that you ever do, and that's just work out. All you do is work out 24/7.
I knew it.
Yeah, I know. If you could just go for a bike ride, like 30 miles, or swim in the ocean 2 miles, or just joking. You probably haven't done 2 miles in the ocean, like a mile.
I've done a mile.
Have you done 1 mile in the ocean?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
I mean, that's what you had to do in the Ironman.
Oh, good point. Yeah, you did it twice in your half Ironmans.
Yeah.
I feel like all of these questions, you could pretty much pull every single one, and the answer for you would just be workout.
Do one more.
Okay. Watch the answers work out again. Who is your partner's greatest source of support other than you? Your workouts.
That's not a who.
Yeah, if you're feeling depressed, you're having a bad day, you're just like, I need to go work out.
My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, good point. That's
And
your
then
number
working
one.
out.
Well, your Lord and Savior, then your wife.
Oh yeah.
And then working out.
Sorry, but it said besides you.
True.
You look good in green.
Thank you. I got a new green sweater. I'm feeling good about it. Thank you, Abercrombie. All right.
This episode is sponsored by Abercrombie. I wish we could give you a discount code.
I know. We have nothing to offer you.
One day we'll get there.
One day you might want to go shop
Hopefully
there.
people are still listening because this has been a wild intro.
Wild. I don't know. I think we always kind of take 10, 15 minutes at the beginning, but maybe people hate it. I always wonder.
I think people like it. I hope.
I hope. Whatever. Maybe it's just for us.
I think it is.
We're connecting. We're trying to get in the vibe. We're disconnecting a little bit from the day, the stresses. It just makes us feel a little lighter, a little happier. Okay, let's dive in. So, stop doing this if you want to get married. Number 1, stop thinking all men suck or that all women suck. Stop looking for the wrong in everything. And I had a conversation recently with a client, and this is like what made me think of this. We were talking about how on dating apps, a lot of times I feel like what women do, especially, I think men do this too, but like women are looking at dating apps and they're like, no, like none of these guys are good enough. And they're just swiping like left because swiping right, Frankie was never on dating apps. Swiping right is a good thing. So I was telling the person, I was like, okay, think about some of your girlfriends. Like some of your girlfriends are beautiful, but maybe they're not like Victoria's Secret models, but maybe they're like a 7 or an 8, but you know their personality and their personality makes them a 10 out of 10. And then I was like, think about the guys that you're swiping on. If you're truly just going based on looks on dating apps, it's kind of like so unfair because first of all, I will say, especially with guys, they're like not that good at taking pictures a lot of times. And so if he has like bad pictures, you have to just kind of look past that and know that, like even on your Instagram, when I started dating you, like, you know, your pictures were okay, but they didn't really show the full picture of 1, how good looking you really are. And 2, it didn't show like your confidence, your personality, like all the other things that make you an asset.
At least I didn't catfish you.
True. And I know that catfishing is real, and I know clients of mine who have been catfished. So I'm not trying to make light of catfishing. But I do think it's worth saying, even if you think someone's maybe not as attractive as you thought that they should be, stop just discounting people. Look a little bit past those first couple pictures and look at the prompts that they're writing and give people more of a chance, because just like you would with your girlfriend, like your girlfriend makes a dating app and she maybe doesn't have the very best pictures, or she doesn't maybe have like everything perfect about her, but you know her and you love her and you're like, girl, no, like you're a queen, you're beautiful, like you're going to hype her up, and you know that she deserves love and you know that she deserves to meet her person. But why are we not giving that same, I guess, benefit of the doubt for men? And we instead hold them to this like impossibly high standard, and we don't even give them a chance to basically be better than their dating profile shows them. So I would just say, stop thinking that all men suck. I know I'm constantly talking about the words that are coming out of your mouth and not saying, you know, all the good guys are taken, all the good guys there are no good guys that left out there, you know, like really watching the words coming out of your mouth and watching what you're listening to too. I know I had a client reach out recently, a student within Attract Your Husband Academy, and she was telling me that she's been listening to some podcasts, and the podcasts are talking about how rough dating is and how, you know, it's so hard to find a good guy. It's like, if you're listening to people who are constantly telling you that, then you're going to start to believe that more and more and more. And there's enough negativity in the world. Don't you want to go out there and believe that there are good men out there, and that even if someone looks like again, like I feel so shallow using numbers, but even if he looks like, let's say, a 6 or a 7 or something on his dating profile, what if he has so much more to offer? What if he's actually so much more attractive in person? What if his confidence is what makes him so attractive? What if his personality is incredible? Because I don't know about you, but I have, and Frankie, I'm curious if you've had this with women. There's been men that I have met in my life that are so attractive, and then they start talking, or I start to get to their personality, and I'm like, whoa, like I am not attracted to you anymore. But then there's been other people that I know that aren't as, let's say, like, not congressionally, congruently, conventionally. Woohoo. There's people who aren't as conventionally good looking, but then they end up being like so attractive because of how they carry themselves, like their confidence, their aura, their energy, the chemistry in the air. Frankie, do you agree with me on this?
He's got good riz, as the kids would say.
He's got riz.
I don't think kids say that, actually.
No, I do think people use the word riz. I don't know if any
Good
of those...
aura is what they say.
Do they?
He's got that aura.
Oh, well, I just said that.
I know.
So I'm like,
good job.
So hip and so cool.
Proud of you.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to this one? Because I asked if you agreed with me.
I do agree with you, yeah.
Have
I
you-
just don't have experience with the dating app, so I can't comment on that.
Okay, but have you ever met let's say before ever knowing me, did you ever go on a date with a girl who was like really good looking, but then her personality kind of sucked?
Of course.
And then had you ever gone on a date with someone who maybe like at face value wasn't the hottest girl in the world, but then like her personality made her really awesome, and you're like, dang, like I actually love spending time with this person?
Yeah.
Why are you
Which
laughing?
is funny. It's like, I'm thinking of this movie quote, like she's got a good personality. That's so messed up.
That is messed up.
It's from some movie. I didn't say it.
Okay. But the same goes for men too. Like,
Of course.
I just think personality does a lot.
I think personality it'll raise your attractiveness levels.
And I obviously do believe in being attracted to the person. I just think especially thinking about dating apps, you just never know. Someone could be more attractive in person than they are on their dating app.
Yeah.
So I would just say give people more of a chance than you think you should.
Agreed.
Cool. I think number 2 would be perfect for you to read.
Why?
I just think
Number
so.
2, I'll say it with more inflection in my voice. Stop missionary dating. We have a friend who brings girls to church hoping the faith will come. So much wasted time and energy. We have a friend who brings girls to church. I honestly don't know who this person is.
Perfect. We're keeping that person very anonymous.
So much wasted time and energy.
I think we've talked about this so many times, but if you don't know what missionary dating is, it's trying to convince someone to be a Christian and thinking that if you bring them to church, then they're just going to like naturally become a Christian, and then it's all going to work out. But a lot of times it doesn't work out so well.
It's not a good idea, folks.
So you don't even know who that's talking about?
No.
Well, okay. Do you have anything you would like to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a waste of time, as you stated.
Do you have anything like to add? Yes.
It is a waste of time, though. I mean, because what are you trying to do? Just like hope somebody turns the corner?
Right.
Freaking go out there and have some boundaries, folks.
Literally.
Listen to my wife with the boundary queen.
Boundary queen. And I got a confidence queen shout out at church on Wednesday night, and they were like, the confidence queen. And they're like, where's Janelle? And I was like, there I am.
That was you.
That was me. I raised my
Yeah,
hand.
missionary dating is not good. I used to do it too. Once or twice.
It's funny because I literally am having this conversation actually with someone right now who reached out to me today. I haven't told you about this
Who
person.
is it? I'm just
I
kidding.
can't.
Oh, Steve.
Oh boy. Jenny.
All right, what were you gonna say?
She was like, he is a Christian.
Yeah,
this is kind of the worst one.
Know.
He is a Christian, but he doesn't go to church at all.
See ya.
But he doesn't really want to start going to church, but like he's a Christian. And it's like, well, I believe that if you're like, I get that there's maybe seasons where you take like a break from going to church if maybe you're working through some church hurt. I've heard of seasons like that, but I don't think that season should be too long. Like, if I'm being honest, I think a season of not going to church would probably be like 3 to 6 months max. And that's because maybe you're very intentionally doing something like in that season. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, church is, you're supposed to be around people. Like, that's what Christianity is. Like, it's the body of Christ, where church doesn't need to be like a specific. Well, I would say it is about the community, because then you can have people that hold you accountable. Yeah. So I think it's just super important. Otherwise, you're just like, I don't know, making up your own stuff as you go along.
Yeah, I find a lot of people who don't consistently go to church or don't consistently have people mentoring them or speaking into their lives from church specifically. I find that a lot of times they kind of like make up a lot of their own rules.
I was going to say, they're the kind of people that interpret the Bible for however fits their lifestyle.
Yeah, they're like, well, it's just like if it works for my lifestyle, then I'll use the Bible. But if it doesn't, then I'll just say I don't believe in that part of the Bible.
Right.
So they just kind of like opportunistic, I guess.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, and what was interesting is I actually want to clear this up a little bit, because she led into the message that she left me saying something like, I know that Frankie wasn't a super strong Christian when you guys started dating. And I don't know where she got that information from.
It's not true.
And I asked her, I was like, what did I say? Like, what had I maybe said along the way that had led you to think that Frankie wasn't a strong Christian? But I said he was newer to his faith. You were like, you had just gotten back into church probably like 1 year before we started dating. And I was like, but when Frankie and I started dating, Frankie was going to church every week, serving on a team, being mentored by his pastors, had just gotten rebaptized because he was baptized as a baby, as a Catholic, but then he like made the choice himself as an adult. And you posted on your Instagram, and that was like when we were following each other on Instagram. I remember that was something that I found like very attractive about you, is that you had a brand on Instagram, but you were willing to show your baptism, which I don't know. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'll just like not show that part, but you were willing to be bold about your baptism, and you would talk about like reading the Bible a lot on your Instagram and stuff. So even though you were, I guess I would say you were a newer Christian, you were raised in the Catholic Church, which there are some people who are Catholic who are really devout Catholics, but I guess for you weren't super devout, and then you came back to your faith by way of Christianity.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd clear the air on that I was not dating someone who was like not sold out for their faith.
No, you weren't.
I was not. I don't know. I was just really surprised when she said that, and then it made me
too. I want to know who this is now.
And then it made me think that maybe I like haven't been clear enough or something.
I think you're pretty clear. I think that's just somebody taking certain things.
Yeah, maybe all I can think is maybe I said you were a newer Christian, and so maybe she's thinking like this guy that she's starting to date is a newer Christian.
There's always Christian. 2 sides to the story, though. So digging into what she means by that is good.
Yeah.
Good idea.
But either way, you want to be with someone who is, I would say, planted in a church, not just someone who's even like, I just think it's not, I would date guys who sometimes they'd be like, oh yeah, I'll start coming to church with you. And they start coming to church with me, but they're just doing it for me. So I would say if you are going on a date with someone who says, I'm a Christian, but really they're like a creaster, they go to church on Christmas and Easter. If they're a creaster, and they're a Christian, but they're not like reading their Bible at all. They're not praying at all. They don't go to church regularly. They don't listen to worship music. Like there's no parts of their actual daily habits. That's like someone being like, I'm an athlete. I work out twice a year. And you're like, bro, you're not an athlete. Like, or because
That's such a
actually
good
someone
example.
else that I talked to recently said that like she thought there was a guy on a dating app who said he was like this super athletic guy, and then he like showed up with a cane.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like she was like, I could tell based on like his physique, like this man hasn't worked out in years, but he was talking all about his like fitness lifestyle. So anyway, yeah, you can't say like I live a super active lifestyle, but you like sit on your couch 24/7 and you know, you walk 1,000 steps a day and you're like, I'm active. So same thing with church and reading your Bible. Like there's certain habits that you will do that show that your life is actually aligned to Jesus. And just going to church twice a year, that's not it.
I would say Janelle is good about this, but asking good questions. Like, don't, like, if somebody says something, always ask, like, that second or third level question. Not because you don't trust them, but because you want to, like, get to the heart behind it and, like, what they mean by certain things that they say. And do it early. It's just, like, do your discovery on the person early on before. Because eventually, like, if you start spending enough time with somebody and do things together that are fun, like, you'll have some type of attachment, like, no matter what. So do ask those hard questions up front. Like, be very, you have to do it in your own personality style, but, like, be bold about what you want and be clear what you want. And, like, I remember, I mean, I didn't really, after getting baptized, I don't think I dated anybody between getting baptized and you.
I think you broke up with that one girl.
In a relationship. But I remember with her, I was like, you know, I plan on going to church to every Sunday. Like, I want you to love Jesus more than you love me. And, like, you know, kind of saying stuff that was, like, would scare her away.
And it did, right?
And it did scare her away. And I mean, I knew we were going to end things. But, like, I would say if just thinking about back to me, if I was dating and, like, before, let's assume you and I didn't meet right away, I would have asked those questions up front and be like, hey, how often are you going to church? Are you in a small group? You know, what's your morning routine or evening routine look like with God? Like, do things that are going to align and, like, have those tough questions because you want to see what people's habits are and not just, like, what they're telling you on a date.
Right. And I would almost even say, like, what's your morning routine like, and leave it, like, really open-ended and see if they even, like, mention anything. You know
and
what
maybe, I mean, maybe you don't need a morning routine. Maybe it's like you do it in the evening. But, like, either way, you got to have some type of Bible in there.
Yeah. Or you could be like, what's your favorite Bible verse? And if they can't think of a Bible verse at all, could be a...
What's your favorite Bible verse?
2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that your power can rest on me.
So good.
Something really close to that.
You crushed it.
I hope I got everything kind of right. But yeah, what's your favorite Bible verse?
I don't know the exact verse. I think it's like Romans 8:28.
Okay, what's the gist?
The gist is that nothing will separate you from the love of Christ Jesus, like neither angels nor demons nor principalities, something like that.
I know that one. Yeah.
It's a good one.
We should do like Bible verse memorization.
Bible verse of the day.
My dad has like hundreds of Bible verses memorized.
I know, he's good.
He would have like a Bible verse pack, and I would like quiz him as a kid. Like we'd go through all these verses. It was pretty impressive.
I like it.
How are we doing on time?
Not good.
What time?
11 minutes left. You got to keep moving.
Okay. What are you doing?
Turning that off.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's move on to. Are we just only on point number 3?
Yeah. No, we're on 2. Now we're on 3.
Yeah, we're starting point number 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop obsessing, especially if you are just going through a breakup or you just went through a divorce and you have all this trauma. And especially if you're someone who hates being alone, then you are not in a position to attract a high worth man. You have to be okay being by yourself. You have to be at peace being by yourself before you can attract someone. So if you have this like scarcity where you're just like, I need this person, I need to find my person, I need to find my person, I need to find my person. And I get it, because sometimes like if you're getting up there in age and you want to have babies, like you literally feel your time bomb ticking. So I understand. And honestly, I probably don't even fully understand because I am not in that position. But I can see where that it would be like, oh, I need to make this happen. And that scarcity can creep in. But I guarantee that's not the energy that's going to attract a high caliber man. If you have this mentality of like, I need a man, I need to meet a man quickly, I got to do anything I can to meet them, like, you've got to listen to the thoughts and the words that are coming out of your mouth. And if you are saying stuff like that and it sounds desperate, I just, like, you got to stop doing that if you want to get married, because you're not going to attract a high caliber person.
Don't be desperate, people.
I think that if you feel desperate, the best thing you can do for yourself is actually get off of all the apps and stop trying to find your person, because that desperation is literally going to repel the type of man you want to marry. And so if you can't even, I don't know, I was talking about this with a friend the other day. Like, I like to go on walks alone, obviously, like in daylight and safe situations and everything. But like, I like to go without my phone, leave my phone at home, leave AirPods at home, and just like go for a walk, even just like around the neighborhood in complete silence. And she was like joking, and she's like, what a psychopath. Like, who walks in silence? Because most people like want to walk with a friend or walk with a podcast or listen to music. But I remember when I was my least confident ever, I could not be alone with my thoughts. I could not just sit in total silence. I couldn't go for a walk for 30 minutes outside with silence because it was too scary to hear all my thoughts. And to me, that's a really good sign that you need to learn how to be alone with your thoughts. And then my book is really good for helping with that. My book, Flex Your Confidence Muscle, on Amazon, or you can listen to it on Audible or Spotify. It's an important yellow flag that should wave in your head if you cannot spend 30 minutes alone with your thoughts and 30 minutes in like peaceful, with nothingness, with no book, no technology, not doing anything, not cleaning, like just chilling.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday too.
Really?
Yeah. How people, back in the day for me, like I would always be the type of person, I'm like, okay, I got to be productive while I'm like driving or walking or working out. Like every moment needs to be either working or consuming some type of thing to get better. And it was like personal development or sermons or worship music or music, anything just to like, and I wasn't doing it in the sense of like, maybe, I don't know if this is conscious or not, but I wasn't doing it to like not think. I was doing it because I thought I was like supposed to and be productive. But I remember the pastor that married us, baptized me, and was discipling me, Justin, told me, he's like, hey, next time you're driving, like, you don't need to just put music on, like, just sit there and, like, listen to God and, like, let the thoughts get flushed out. And I remember I started to do that, and it was just so helpful because you could really feel like you could hear, you know, what your thoughts would go to. Like, is it thoughts of like life and growth, or is it like negative thoughts towards you? Like, you know, so it's good to really just check that and have that time. Yeah.
And then if you hear those thoughts, then you're like, oh wow, like I'm thinking a lot of negative thoughts, or I'm like thinking about my to-do list, or I'm thinking about like stress, or I'm thinking about worst case scenarios. Then that's like good, because at least then you have the awareness, right?
Yeah.
Like the first step for any type of change is awareness.
Right.
So if you don't even really aren't aware of your thoughts, then it's hard to change those thoughts.
Exactly. It's good.
Really good. Okay, number 4. Why don't you just read this front part?
Which front part?
So I made the list, and as you can see, Frankie is just like reading from the list that I made here.
You got it. I don't know what front part you mean. It's all on the front.
Sorry, I meant like the first sentence is what I was trying to say.
You got it.
Okay. Okay, so stop doing this if you want to get married. Stop revisiting old relationships. There was a reason it didn't work the first time, so why do you keep going back to it?
Comfort.
True. So I had a conversation with a student in my academy last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And she was sharing how there was a guy that she dated like a while ago, let's say like a year or two ago. They had great like chemistry. They had great connection. But the main problem was that he was Catholic, but he wasn't willing to wait to have sex till marriage. And she wanted to wait to have sex till marriage, and she did. Or like she's not married yet, but anyway, she maintained it. And basically like that continued to be a problem because he was like, I don't think I could like basically get engaged or marry someone unless we had sex first. And she was like, well, I'm waiting to have sex till my husband. And so they would like fight back and forth about that. And then unfortunately, so she closed the door. Amazing. Then unfortunately, a while passed, he kind of came back into the picture and reached out, and she reopened that door. And then they like kind of redated again for another stint of time. And it was almost a whole year later. So it was like basically because the door got reopened, then like the more pain opened up in her heart because of like, then all the same problems were still there. It's not like he came back and was like, by the way, now my faith's totally different and I'm down to wait to have sex till marriage. Like, so they still had this like fundamental thing that they could not agree on, that they both saw very differently on. And I mean, my heart breaks for her because I know how like it's so crappy when you're like so connected to someone and you feel such great, I keep wanting to say charisma, but chemistry is the word I'm looking for. Such great chemistry, and like basically like everything feels perfect except for this. But I will say that like, again, coming from the faith perspective, if he isn't willing to wait to have sex, like I would say even maybe I'm Delulu, but I feel like someone who really loves you, they could wait to have sex because you would know, like just based on how amazing your relationship is, that the sex would be good. Like I feel like you can pick up on a lot of that chemistry prior to ever doing anything sexual. And I also feel like sex is one of those things that like it's meant to get better with time, and you're meant to like communicate and all those types of things. So yeah, I guess I said to her, I was like, I feel like it seems like that was the only problem, but ultimately I bet there was actually a lot of deeper things that were happening there that, you know, it felt like, you know what I'm saying? Like it felt like it was just that one thing, but then everything else was okay. But I was like, imagine like your kids one day, if you guys got married, then like, what would you tell them when it comes to this conversation? Because he would say he thinks that you're supposed to have sex before you marry someone to make sure that like you're a good fit. And you're saying, well, we believe in the Bible and we want to follow this. Like how many other misalignments are there going to be that are similar to this one? And so anyway, when you reopen that door, which again, I know we're all human. So it's like, I did it before I re-let someone into my life that I had, you know, mustered up all the courage in the world to break up and did it. And then he comes and, you know, he pursues you and woos you back over. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, maybe it'll be different this time. You kind of just hope for the best. But gosh, if you want to get married, you got to just be so strong. And when that person tries to come back and tries to get in your life and tries to re-enter the picture, you got to keep the door closed. Don't reopen it for another 3 months, another 6 months, because then what happens is you break up and then you have to go through all the pain and all the healing again. And then you're right back to where you were like a year and a half or 2 years ago or whatever, you know? And so it's like, when you shut the door and keep the door shut, because I would say like 97% of the time, all the things that didn't work before are still not going to work this time. Of course, you've probably heard a story before of someone who, you know, they broke up and then they got back together and everything worked out. Can that story happen? Yes, of course. But that is the exception to the rule. That is not the rule. The rule is that the things that didn't work for you the first time are likely, unless that person has gone through a lot of healing or they've done something very radical and you can actually see a very radical shift in their life, then it could be worth considering. But if nothing's really changed, you haven't seen any radical, like, you know, I guess like I'm thinking about going through some sort of big program or getting a mentor at church or hiring a coach to help like work through whatever this thing is. Like if they haven't really changed and they haven't done anything to actively change, then you're going to just be back where you started.
No bueno, man.
No bueno. Okay, well, now we're going to number 5. While we are just ripping through it, we'll turn off our timer because we know that we're just ripping. Okay, number 5. This one was one that you actually did come up with, so I'm excited for you to read it.
Stop seeing yourself as a single person. Start seeing yourself as someone who is married.
Okay, and do you remember who you... Because we were thinking about different single people we know, and then we're like, what advice would we give them?
Let me read it again. So this one goes out to the single folk out there. Most of you, probably. So what I was talking about with one of my friends is how he has recently made this shift of where it was all about him, all about work, all about his goals, his ambitions, which, I mean, makes sense when you're single. Like, who else are you really thinking about?
Yeah.
You know? So, but at the same time, there's a vast 180 of going from a single person to being somebody in a committed relationship if you want the relationship to work, because there's sacrifice, there's time commitments, there's compromises, there's all sorts of things that come up. So it's really important if you're a single person, like if your desire is to start dating and to eventually get married, like you got to start position yourself in that area to set yourself up for success. So if you're somebody that, you know, is very focused on your career and like that's your number one priority and you want to grow your business or grow whatever you're doing or whatever your number one thing is, and that's where you invest all your time, but you don't make time to like go on dates, you don't make time to think about what do I want in a future spouse. Okay, if that future spouse has all these qualities, what do I need to do in order to become that person? Like, that's what we actually talked about, and I didn't even bring it up to him. He's like, I have a really high desire of who my future wife is. These are her characteristics. And what I realized is, like, I was great in probably, like, 60% of them, but there's another 40% of the areas I need to get better at in order to attract my future wife. And he also was like, so I need to do that so I don't end up just settling with somebody because I'm not actually focused on like positioning myself to become available.
Wow, shoot. We need Attract Your Wife Academy.
We do.
For the fellas out there.
But I mean, obviously same principles work for women.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking like, because you're talking about the men, and I was like, dang, they could really use the tools inside of Attract Your Husband Academy, but they probably wouldn't buy it because they're a guy and they're trying to find their wife.
Limiting belief. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm just saying, like,
Sorry,
the name is not
yeah.
conducive. Maybe I should have done Attract Your Spouse Academy or something like
but
more inclusive.
Anyway, back to the
sorry,
point.
Sorry.
But the point is, you can't, in my opinion, just keep going on with your single life and think that you're going to find your person. Like, it can obviously happen. You could be in a situation where, like, that person just comes into your life, but I feel like you got to, like, open up your eyes and your vision of, okay, it's not just about you. Like, you got to go explore the options.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think there's this like big shift when you start to think of yourself as a wife or as a husband, even before you meet your person. And so, like, thinking about the wives out there that are single women, but you are a wife because you will be married to someone one day. So thinking of yourself as a wife and thinking, okay, well, what are the things I would do as a wife and how can I do those right now? And maybe it's like, you know, I wish I made healthier meals because I feel like when I'm a wife, I would love to make meals for my husband. I know that puts you a little bit in a, I'm not saying you have to do that.
That's so sexist.
Could be a sexist thing. I don't know. But maybe that's like some women I talk to, that's something that they are excited about to be able to make meals for their husband. Even if, let's say you guys are sharing in the meal making, you maybe wish you're making healthier meals and you wish that you could bring that to the table for your husband when you get married. Well, why don't you start practicing making those healthy meals right now so that when you get married, you have that tool belt? Or the same with like your interior design. Maybe you're like, oh, I can't wait till I'm like married and have kids and I can like make our house look so cute and like do some of those type of like wifey type things. Well, what if you were to do some of those things right now? Like, how could you up level your space right now to feel like it's matching the energy of wife? Like, this is actually so funny, but I remember I bought a queen bed when I broke up with this one guy. And then I was like, okay, it's time for me to be like ready for my husband. And I had like, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I had a single bed because that would be too small. Maybe I had like a small full or
bed.
something like that. But I was like, in my mind, I thought a queen was even better, which maybe I was also trying to be like, I'm a queen or something. But I was like, if I get a queen bed, then like that's space for me and my husband. Like, this could be me and my husband's bed. So I went and purchased an IKEA like memory foam mattress. I remember it was actually like, really nice. I loved that bed. And then in my mind, I planted that as like a seed of like, I'm getting a bed that's big enough for me and my husband so I can find him, so we can get married and share this bed together. And then like when we got married, we ended up getting a California king because my husband's freaking huge. And so the queen still wasn't big enough, but it was like the mindset behind it. So just thinking like, what are some of those little things you could be doing right now that would actually make you put yourself into the mindset of I am a wife and I'm ready to be a wife right now.
That's so good.
So good. Woo. Okay. Number 6.
You got it.
No.
All right, here we go. Number numero 6. 14, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Ooh, you are so fluent in Spanish.
Stop thinking every guy or girl you go on a date with has to be the one. Don't be so emotionally connected. Go on lots of dates, but be selective. I don't know what the rest of that says. Be selective, ...
Oh, yeah. But be selective about saying this is the one.
Yes.
So you remember which friend this one was for? Yeah. Yep.
We won't say their name.
No, we're not saying names about people today. Ever.
Please.
It's a safe space. We keep
What would you
people's
say about
identities
this
completely.
This is Singles Anonymous Club.
Singles Anonymous. Oh, that's good. Okay, so I think these are almost 2 different points because one of the points, this is a conversation I had with one of my students in the academy recently, and she shared that like a lot of times when she's thinking about going on a date with a guy, she kind of in her mind is like, could this be my husband or could it not? And then she like, if she's like, it's probably not my husband, and she just like kind of goes back, I guess, to the very first point, but she just immediately decides like, there's no way this person can be my husband. So therefore she's only gone on like 1 or 2 dates like this entire year because she's just always like deeming like, oh, that guy couldn't be my husband, so I'm not going to go on a date. I actually think taking the pressure off and saying like, that person doesn't have to be my husband. I don't have to decide before a date if I could see them for sure being my husband or not. Instead, just get in the habit of dating and going on dates and getting to know guys and taking that pressure off of like, is he my husband or is he not my husband? Of course, you do want to be thinking like that. I don't know. It's a weird balance, I guess I would say, because it's not like you don't want to go on numerous dates with a guy and be like dating him for 3 months because you're not even letting yourself think properly about if he's your husband or not. And there's all these red flags. But I'm just saying like, if you put too much pressure on the front end and you're like, this man has to be my husband. And I don't know if I'm seeing enough green flags from his dating profile. So I don't know if it's even worth going on a date. And it's like, well, you don't really know. Just go on more, start getting out there, get to know people. You know, don't drag things on. Maybe just go on 1 or 2 dates. And then if it's not the person, you can move along. But I don't know. I just think there's something to be said about taking the pressure off of someone having to be like your husband or wife. It's not like when Frankie and I went on our first date, I was thinking to myself, he will be my husband, you know?
I knew. I'm just kidding.
He was like my Instagram crush.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
But I didn't know. I was like, he could just be a cool guy I go on a few dates with. Who knows?
A cool guy hunk.
You're a very cool guy hunk. Hunks only. But then the other part to this is what you were saying about like this friend of yours. He was the kind of person who like after one date, he'd be like, this is the one, right?
Yeah.
So what was your advice on that?
I mean, just, it's what I said earlier. Be very specific of what you want and like don't settle and don't get too emotional about the first couple dates. Guard your heart.
Guard your heart. Yeah, I feel like that's easier said than done. I wish we had like a few tips.
I'm trying to think of a tip. I would just say, it's like my number one tip is don't settle and be clear of what you need and want up front, and that's going to help.
And I completely agree. I'm just thinking maybe someone listening feels like there's like conflicting advice here because we're saying like don't settle, but we're also saying like
go on more dates. Yeah, but you can go on lots of dates and like have your boundaries of what you want and need. Yeah.
I think I'd say like you might feel like you're going on a date where you're like, am I settling or am I not? I'm not sure yet because like maybe he's not as attractive as I think he should be, or maybe this certain little thing isn't lining up exactly the way I thought it would or something like that. As far as like, I don't know, I'm trying to think if it like something in his picture is like, I don't know, maybe I really can't think of a good example for this, but like not big red flags where you're like, oh, he's not a Christian, or like, oh, he looks like he's like absolutely drunk in every single picture. Like there's big red flags. I'm not saying go on dates with those people, but if there's just like small ones, and I feel like especially with dating profiles, because it's so visually like you make a lot of decisions based on the physical attraction part. I'm just saying, like, if a lot of things seem good about the personality and the attractiveness is like maybe semi there and it's hard to tell, go on the date, because you just never know what's going to happen on that date. But then if you go on the date and then you don't have any fun or it sucks, then don't settle and then just walk away from it. I think that's what we're trying to say.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
It's both and.
Very well put.
Because you cannot settle but still go on dates without.
That's what I was trying to say.
Because maybe you feel like, oh, am I settling to go on this first date or something, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to share one quick story and then we'll wrap up. I have to throw your dad under the bus for a second, which was at our engagement party. My dad decided to do a speech, and then Frankie's dad, like, I don't think he was planning on doing a speech. So in his defense, he was
Caught off
put on
guard.
the spot. But he was like, he goes up and he like gets the mic. Well, there wasn't a mic actually. We're just at Frankie's house in Colorado. So it was like a cool little small Denver house. And he was like, you know, Frankie used to he's gone on dates with lots of girls. And, you know, he always says like, this one's the one, this one's the one, this one's the one. Every single time he goes on a date, he says, she's the one. And, you know, and then he called me and said, you know, I met this girl, she's the one. And, you know, I thought, oh, sure, here we go. Just another one of the, but this ended up really being the one. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
mortified. And I was like, is this actually happening right now? And I like look over at Frankie and I'm like, if looks could kill. And I was like, is this a true story? So then of course I'm like waiting to like ask him. But in my mind, I'm like, wait, I thought we both said that like we didn't feel like this about everyone, but maybe you felt like this about everyone. And I'm just like everyone else. And so then we had to have this conversation where we're like, did you really call your dad all the time and always tell him that every girl you're dating was the one? And you say no. I don't know. I'm still.
I never said that.
Really? Where do you think your dad got it from?
I don't know. Next topic.
You're not going to defend yourself at all? You seem guilty the way that you're not defending yourself.
I'm not guilty, but I'm an emotional guy, you know? I had feelings for people, but I knew you were different.
Yeah.
I don't think me saying all these girls were the one is what I said. I think I would be that person that I was cautioning against at the end. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve all the time.
So how many times do you think that you called your dad and said, this is the one?
Never. Except for you.
But why would he say that then?
I don't know. Wish I could tell you. But you know what? I think we're all out of time,
Frankie
folks.
is a little bit, hold on, let me just finish by saying Frankie is a little bit on the emotional side of things sometimes. So I could see you being like, maybe you weren't calling and saying this girl's the one, but you might have just been like calling and being like really excited and be like, she's so awesome or whatever.
Probably,
and
until
then,
I met you. 2
minutes later, you realized she wasn't awesome. And then you met me and then like you never, like the awesomeness never faded.
Never, and it hasn't. It never will.
Hasn't. And we're in the honeymoon phase for absolutely forever.
For eternity.
I love you.
I love you.
Do you feel uncomfortable that I brought that up?
No, I'm just hungry.
You're hungry. Oh, yeah, he's still hungry, folks. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening today. Hopefully you got some good little nuggets out of these things to stop doing. I feel like we gave some ideas of things to start doing instead, right? Hopefully it wasn't all just like negative things. But if you have any specific questions, let us know, and we'll do a podcast episode on it.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Love you all. Thank you for taking time to listen. And if you haven't yet, please leave us a review. It only takes like 30 seconds, and then we'll give you a shout out on our next podcast. Yippee!